Imagine soaring through space, overwhelmed by the scale of it all, yet fueled by the excitement of a new frontier. That's what starting Warframe actually feels like. I've put hundreds of hours into various MMOs and shooters, but nothing prepared me for starting Warframe as a newbie. In this video, I'll go over some of the complex systems and menus, I'll run through my playthrough experience so far, and whether or not I'd recommend this to Destiny players. To really understand my perspective on Warframe, let me quickly explain what I already know coming into the game, and I'll touch on the type of games I normally play. Existing knowledge of Warframe is easy to lay down because there's only 3 things I've heard of about this game. 1. It is a looter shooter with heavy emphasis on movement and different character types. 2. This game has been out since 2013, so it's older than Destiny 1. And 3. There is an upcoming expansion set for winter 2024 called Warframe 1999. Now, I mentioned Destiny earlier. If you're like me and are looking for new games to try out in between episodes, then you'll definitely want to stick around. And as far as MMOs, I played Vanilla WoW up to Burning Crusade back in the day. I put in a ton of hours into BDO, Final Fantasy, and Lost Ark. Honestly, Lost Ark was one of my most enjoyable action MMORPG experience I ever had. I just wish content wasn't so heavily time-gated. Hopefully, that's not the case with Warframe. All in all, none of it is new to me anymore. I thought I'd seen it all, but Warframe is on a whole nother level. The sheer scale of Warframe makes every other game I've played feel like a walk in the park. 20 hours into the game, I find myself wondering how anyone could possibly keep track of it all. From navigating the various worlds, crafting weapons and mods, to understanding the nuances of combat mechanics. It's a lot to absorb. And if you're not careful, it's easy to get bogged down in the details and lose sight of the fun. I want to take a minute here to iterate a few things. First, this video is focused on my impressions of the game coming over from Destiny. I want to make that clear so that you don't expect a guide or an overview of all the game's systems and mechanics. Also, I don't have a ton of subs or followers, so I didn't receive any of the so-called streamer privileges like gifting of Warframes or other items. Lastly, I did not spend any money on this game, and I do not plan to do that. I had the same average experience that you would have starting out. Navigation was first and foremost in the systems to understand and overcome. The display of all the planets and their various missions is known as the star chart. There are 17 planets to traverse, each of these with about 10 different missions and 1 free roam area to complete bounties for NPCs. The missions are instanced with the same level design taking place every time you replay the mission. Think of it like running a Vanguard strike in Destiny. From what I've experienced, there are 6 different mission types: assassination, capture, defense, mobile defense, rescue, and spy. Honestly, spy was the toughest for me. Every other mission type feels like a speed run. You're flying across the level, shooting enemies from afar, slicing them up close, platforming over death traps, capturing objectives, rescuing a hostage. Spy forces you to slow down and find hidden passages to the data or artifact you're searching for. And if you set off the alarm, it becomes a race against time to shut off the security systems and reach your goal before time runs out. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it definitely felt disjointed from the other modes, and I was railroaded to play a specific way, otherwise I'd lose and have to restart the whole mission. I think this feeling of disjointedness or fragmentation is something that may persist throughout Warframe, but I'll touch on that more later. With the time I've put in, I've managed to unlock 8 destinations. Keep in mind that I wasn't power grinding the campaign. I took some time to try out side missions, farm materials for some new guns and swords, as well as incubate and raise a pet. That's something I definitely didn't expect coming into this game. There better be more pet options further into the game because my Boy Scout here needs some friends. The star chart is vast and impressive but lacks excitement. I guess the simplest way I can describe it is that there's a sense of progression without a sense of purpose. There is no big bad villain that is on a specific planet that we need to reach before he destroys the universe. There's no revelation about our Tenno history that will be finally discovered once we reach Phobos, for example. We're planet hopping, taking care of small missions for NPCs, and repairing our ship to unlock our Warframe's combat capabilities. Without an exciting overarching narrative to engage new players, the grind feels that much more oppressive and unrewarding. At the very least, they could make the Spectre fights at each junction more memorable and rewarding. But I was able to cut through each Spectre with 3 to 4 melee attacks. Honestly, some of the mobs in the regular missions were harder than these quote-unquote boss fights. Let's switch over now to weapons and talk about our Warframe's arsenal. Starting from the top down, we've got the Warframe itself. I should probably take a step back for a quick explanation. You don't actually play as a Warframe. You are a race of aliens known as Tenno. Warframes are the exosuits that you put on to enhance your abilities. There are so many options in the shop for Warframe suits and cosmetics. I love that we are given so many choices so that we can build craft to our heart's content. There are choices of Warframes from the market, then there are options from Nightwave, which is a seasonal activity, and even ways to earn them through your clan. But with the multitude of suits and ways to earn them, we've also now come to my biggest issue with this game. After 20 hours of playing, I still don't have access to a Warframe besides the one I started the game with. I'll talk about this more later when I give my final thoughts, but I really think Digital Extremes is doing themselves a disservice by not introducing new players to multiple Warframes right away. Getting back on track, Warframes and all other weapons need to be forged at the foundry. You need to buy or earn a set of Warframe blueprints for each suit. After that, each suit needs the following crafted: neuroptics, chassis, and systems. Each of those is then broken down into 3 or 4 sets of materials that you need to collect in order to forge the respective Warframe component. Most of those components do not overlap, meaning that you'll have to gather about 9 to 10 separate materials on various planets in order to forge one Warframe. Oh yeah, did I mention that neuroptics, chassis, and systems each need 12 hours of crafting time to complete? Uh-oh, is this going to be a time gate issue like Lost Ark? Again, I want to save my thoughts on this for the end, otherwise this section of the video will get bogged down and we'll never move on. Besides the exosuits, the majority of your crafting will be for firearms and melee weapons. Each weapon will need 4 types of materials to gather and 12 hours of crafting time before they're ready for use. I currently have 2 primaries, 2 secondaries, and 5 melee weapons. Variety is decent here for spending 20 hours in the game, and it would be even better if I didn't have to use the game's premium currency in order to increase my inventory slot for more weapons. I've crafted a few that are ready for use, but unfortunately, my inventory is full so I can't use them. Again, that feeling of disjointedness comes up. Digital Extremes boast variety in every aspect of the game, but they limit you early on. Why? It really doesn't feel like they're pushing microtransactions on you. It's more of a focus on new, innovative modes of play and mechanics for hardcore fans, at the cost of overlooking how they could capture the excitement and loyalty of newer players. Originally, I wanted to talk about the mods and how they can be convoluted and difficult to keep track of, but as I played more, they actually became more intuitive to use, upgrade, and sell. The only issue I have with them is that it's a little tricky to delete duplicates. However, that might just be because I'm not using the right filters to find the ones I no longer need, so that's probably more of a personal issue than a general new player issue. There is a PvP mode called Conclave, with 3 team modes and a free-for-all game type. I queued up multiple times but never found another person playing Conclave. Perhaps there's a separation from new players and maxed out players. It wasn't explained in-game if that was the case. Either way, if you're a PvP lover, don't expect to find much of that in Warframe, especially not early on as a beginner. I could honestly spend hours talking about syndicates, other markets such as a Prime Resurgence shop, Warframe progression, cosmetics, loadouts, etc. But to me, these are smaller points of the game that are either self-explanatory or have no real bearing on the new player experience. I try to use and understand all of these aspects of the game because I'm curious, but for the average player, these topics are not necessary to cover today. What is necessary to talk about is the key to conquering Warframe's campaign, and that's focus. Here's how I'm tackling the early game process and also what I would recommend for you. Set up your Warframe for success as quickly and easily as possible. One of the biggest hurdles for new players is figuring out how to build a decent loadout. But all you have to do is go to your arsenal, select your weapon, go to Actions, and then select Auto Install from the menu, and you're done. Since your weapons and Warframe will level up like crazy during the campaign missions, I suggest you do the auto install once every 3 missions or so. After that, just make sure you continue following the story missions. Don't get sidetracked and think you have to complete every blue diamond on a planet. Coming over from Destiny, movement through the maps is going to feel completely different. It's way more fluid with a greater emphasis on speed and agility. I've gotta admit, it takes some getting used to. I find myself instinctively trying to play it like Destiny, but Warframe's mechanics just don't work that way. You need to sprint and bullet jump your way across the map for efficiency. A bullet jump is simple. All you do is jump while crouching. If you were sprinting before the crouch, your character will slide and then jump. They retain all the momentum from that slide and jump forward in a spiral fashion. The combat's also a lot more fast-paced with a greater emphasis on dodging and platforming across the level. There's no need to focus on ammo conservation or defensive positioning. I mentioned it early on in this video, but speedrunning is the name of the game. Complete objectives as quickly as you can. Kill enemies to level up your weapons. Only stop if you feel like breaking chests to gather materials. Once you've got your mission completions rolling at a good pace, I would get into the habit of accessing your navigation, equipment, and inbox all from the main menu. There's no need to wander around the ship to interact with various menus when it can all be done from one central place. Also, don't spend any more currency than necessary. Of course, go ahead and use materials for any weapons that you want to craft and try out. I'm just saying don't craft components of Warframes unless you can forge the entire thing. Don't spend your hard-earned Nightwave credits on cosmetics you don't even own the Warframes for. You know what I mean? Hold on to everything you can, otherwise you'll find yourself backtracking needlessly to previous locations for more materials. Speaking of Nightwave, it will detour you from the campaign, but I think it's worth it. This is the only piece of quote-unquote current content that you'll be able to touch. You won't have currency to buy newer Warframes or weapons from the market. You can't reach endgame activities and locations, but you can complete Nightwave missions and earn new weapons and a Warframe for your effort. Definitely add Nightwave into your daily activities. So this is what I recommend you do. Again, I was sidetracked trying out various systems for a more complete view of the game since I'm a content creator, but I wouldn't urge you to do the same because Warframe really feels like a get out of the campaign and into the endgame ASAP type of MMO. The new player experience is not where you want to be, which brings me to my next point. After everything Warframe threw at me, I still have to answer one big question. Will I keep playing? From a quick calculation on my Steam library, generally I put in about 5 hours into a game before deciding to drop it or stick with it to completion. I know that sounds finicky, but I'm actually pretty critical about which games I continue to invest my time into. I have to feel as if my energy, and more importantly, my time are being valued by the developer. In that regard, am I getting great value from putting my time into Warframe? No, at least not as a new player. The engaging and deep narrative with lore and mysteries is not there. I've heard this game is amazing, and it's been around for over 10 years with a higher number of concurrent players than Destiny, at least on PC, sitting at around 46,000 players. So I have to imagine all of the value is thrown into the endgame and seasonal content. The general new player experience is not it. Destiny 2 is known for its satisfying gunplay and impactful abilities. Warframe's melee combat in particular can feel less punchy or rewarding, and some weapons lack the immediate heft that us Destiny players are accustomed to. Also, Warframes, at least the starting 3, don't have a true super ability like Destiny. You don't fill up a gauge, pop it, and then perform a godlike ability that you didn't have access to before. I play Excalibur, so my 4th ability, Exalted Blade, summons an ethereal sword. My melee weapon is already a sword, so the only difference is that now it can emit short waves of energy and hits harder. That doesn't feel very transformative. For me, Destiny wins on the topic of gunplay and ability usage. Where Warframe stands untouchable is movement. Unlike Destiny 2 where movement feels grounded and tactical, Warframe is all about agility and momentum across environments with a precision that feels both freeing and exhilarating. It's like being in constant motion, never tied down by gravity. I have to address that feeling of disjointedness I mentioned a couple of times before. I think I can best illustrate it with these examples. Movement, speed, platforming, and agility are the greatest strengths of Warframe. But slow down and be stealthy in spy missions, otherwise you'll be forced to start over. We have over 40 Warframes to choose from to suit your own playstyle, but you can't access them as a new player. Oh great, you got the Warframe blueprints, forged the neuroptics, chassis, and systems. Now come back in 12 hours so you can try this bad boy out. Oh awesome, you just crafted a new Kraken pistol for your secondary weapon. Oh wait, you're out of inventory slots and you have to spend premium currency if you want more. I know the majority of these design decisions come down to Warframe being a free-to-play game, so they have to add ways for you to spend money for a quote-unquote better experience. But I just have to point these out because they disrupt your enjoyment and will definitely rub you the wrong way if you're transitioning over from Destiny, where you're constantly bombarded by weapons and armor in every activity of the game. Okay, moment of truth. Will I continue to play this game? Yes. That's because I've already invested time into the journey and because the prestige that Warframe holds within the looter-shooter genre. I have to know what endgame consists of and why this game has endured for so long. Do I recommend that you try this out as a Destiny player? No, at least not how I did. I think you drastically improve your experience by waiting for some type of event to come around. Actually, looking at their website today, you can earn a free Warframe just by logging into the game between October 2nd and 16th. They'll even give you a Warframe slot and Orokin reactor, so it should be available for use right away. Hopefully, some more experienced players can chime in on this topic. Perhaps there is some yearly event that is a good time to join. For example, Destiny has the Dawning, Solstice, and Guardian Game events throughout the year. If something like that takes place, I would take advantage, use that opportunity to hop in and start the new player grind. As for me, I will continue to play the game and document my experiences whenever Destiny has downtime throughout their episodic content. But throughout the video, I've been comparing Warframe to Destiny, so if you've never played Destiny or are curious about the latest content and builds, then check out this video to see an unkillable Titan build that you could craft as a new player and get to end game content ASAP.